It's not fair that we keep doing this to Renee. She keeps appearing immediately after the Hawks get dragged in a way that just feels like hope extinguishing. And last time she took...
Stop getting dragged.
But last time, the last time, it feels like the last time I talked to you, although we saw you in Austin, but right before that, it was because the Hawks had embarrassed you, and now... Trae Young comes in here, and I feel bad for him. This seems hard to be with an injured team, and Miami's defense is particularly difficult for one guy that size to try and keep busting down.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. And Trae, he hasn't been hitting shots. It's been a tough situation, but I don't know. The Le Batard and Friends crew that's on Twitter, everybody was asking me, am I really going to come tomorrow and get all the smoke? And I'm like, have y'all not watched the show? Did y'all not see what happened last time? So yeah, no, it's tough. I'm going to be like, I'm gonna be like the Titanic. I'm going down with the ship, as you can see. So we are injured, all of that jazz, but yeah, I got to go down with the ship.
But that's your heart, not your head. It sounds like you're defeated. I would think you're so optimistic. I would think
the series hasn't started yet. No one's won a road game. You've seen a lot of basketball. A lot of times games go back home and it doesn't look the same as it looked in the first two games.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. Location doesn't matter. I mean, what I was seeing was X's and O's, Clint Capella holes where there's just wide open dunks that usually don't ever happen on our team like that. John Collins is out on the court, but John Collins is not John Collins. So I am talking X's and O's when I watch this stuff. My heart wants the Hawks to win, but X's and O's wise, if you're missing your starting front line and our team is Lob City, and that's what Trae does to get all of his stuff going, it's not a very optimistic view.
Are you saying it's over?
No, I'm not saying it's over. I do think that, like, I watched Giannis flip his knee backwards, upside down in our series and come back that same series and actually beat us. So I'm actually going to keep hope alive because we watched it happen live with us. But it's just like, I don't know. Clint Capella was posting stuff on his IG story talking about, he wants to get in the chamber. I don't even know what cartoon he posted, but I was just taking a hint that it meant that he is loading and trying to get ready. So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough around here.
But Renee, you talked about defensive issues there with Capella and Collins, but the Trae Young situation, now some of that could be health of teammates, but it's 10 turnovers in one game and 1 for 10 from the field in another. What are the issues there? Like, are these things you sometimes see with Trae Young, or is there something that's particular to what the Heat are doing to bother him?
Well, I mean, I think that's what you have to remember. I saw him throw 2 lobs to John Collins that would have usually been highlights that y'all watched on ESPN. Instead, they were turnovers that we watched Miami go the other way. That's a timing issue. That's a rhythm issue. John Collins has been out. I've seen situations where Trae Young usually does throw the lob or do the floater, but he doesn't have Clint Capella there to throw it, gets caught in the air, throws a turnover. So I think that people don't really realize how everything is interrelated when you're talking about a team. You're talking about rhythm. We do have turnovers from time to time, and we do kind of get loose with the ball. Trae missing his last 17 threes doesn't help. That's kind of part of our whole ethos. But when they're not, this is a Miami defense that I talked about it, last night on the NBA. I was just saying that this Miami defense is experts in making you feel uncomfortable, whether it's Kyle Lowry getting up under you, trying to take a charge, trying to strip the ball, Jimmy Buckets being aggressive. We know Bam is high energy. That's what they do. And so, because people were asking me, is Miami really a number 1 seed because of all the injuries and what was going on with the Nets and the Celtics? But I do think that Miami finds a way to make everybody uncomfortable.
Renee, from one hooper to another, obviously people get buckets.
For the love of God.
No,
you better.
Come on,
come on, Hooper.
Yeah, we know what it is. So from one hooper to another, I said yesterday that the Hawks don't have bucket getters outside of Trae Young. Bogdanovich came out and had 29, shot really well. Who's a bucket getter on the Atlanta Hawks?
He was getting buckets last
Yeah,
night.
Bogey's definitely a bucket getter on the Atlanta Hawks. I would also say Lou Williams is a bucket getter on the Atlanta Hawks, but he's not suiting up. A lot of people forget about that. Last year when we had our run, Lou Williams had some big games. They got State Farm turned up, was dapping up Quavo, and those things matter. I know people really don't think that those things matter. Lou Williams can go get you a fadeaway bucket, fading left every single time. It doesn't matter. I would say those are our main bucket getters where it's just like roll the ball out there, go get it. We need more. That is one of the things that we've needed all season long. It's not going to just magically appear. And everybody also, too, they always have tried to trap Trae. You know, like this isn't new, trapping Trae and trying to get the ball out of Trae's hand. But it's just a problem because Trae doesn't have his normal weapons of floater, lob, threes not falling. So everything's looking a little bit different.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Dapping up Quavo. Do those things matter?
Also,
listen.
Also, could Lou Williams get buckets until he's 60 in the
That's
NBA?
right.
Yes.
I mean,
older. Yes.
Certified
has anybody
bucket.
seen a guy by the name of Jamal Crawford? I'm just saying there's certain guys that I don't care how seasoned they are, how long they've been in the league. They could go get you a bucket. So that really is.
All right,
I know a lot of
let's
people
do
aren't
it.
talking
Let's
about
do
it.
it. Then let's do
Professional
it.
bucket getter.
If you're
Yeah.
going to be the one, you're going to be the arbiter now on bucket getters. We're going to allow you here to make your choice because a bucket getter, he's good, but he's not that good. Like the
He's a guy who can get you a bucket until the day he dies.
I know he can get you a
Yeah.
bucket, but it can't. Like, of course, Michael Jordan is a bucket getter, but this is an insult to call Michael Jordan a bucket getter. We are talking about what are the Bogdanovich is a bucket getter. He was last night.
Yeah. Chris Middleton is a bucket getter. I mean, there's certain guys that like you're not going to just think of Chris Middleton at that top tier, but tell Chris Middleton to go get a bucket, he could go get you one. So there's just certain guys that are on your team that you're like, dang, this guy, like he can get a bucket. Like it's just you start to notice that they can score in bunches. Terry Rozier, bucket getter. Like you're not going to mention him in all the top. Those are a bucket getters. It doesn't matter what tier you put them on.
Terry.
So wait a minute. So if he's shooting 38%, that's okay because it's Scary Terry and he's a bucket getter. We don't care that it's 38%.
Percentages. Listen, Jimmy Buckets shoots 23% from the 3-point line and made 3 for 4 last night. He's a bucket getter.
Yep.
I'm not surprised that Jimmy Buckets showed up in money time. I'm not surprised that Jimmy Buckets found ways to get stops and get easy points. He's going to get you buckets. So that's why they call people that's why people, when you see their contract, you be like, Chris Middleton got what? Yeah, his team knows he's a bucket getter, and that's what you have to have, especially midway in the season when everybody's over the season. You got to have some bucket getters.
Your bucket getter's favorite bucket getter, Michael Beasley.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dan, you don't know about Michael Beasley. Michael Beasley can get a bucket.
Well, he
get
thought
a
he
bucket.
dropped the mic on us for that one too. He was like, "Wait for
Real
it."
Hoopers know.
He
Like,
did.
what?
No,
What?
come on.
But I think what Dan is saying, and I kind of agree with him, is Lou Williams. When I think Lou Williams, I think of like Eric Gordon, a guy who will be able to get you a bucket until he's 95 years old.
Absolutely.
Thank
Who
you.
would doubt it? I mean, honestly, Isaiah Thomas was that kind of guy until he kind of got injured and couldn't do his stuff. But you could tell Isaiah Thomas when he was healthy, Isaiah, take over, go get a bucket. He would do it. Like he could do it. It doesn't matter his size, whatever. So yeah, there's certain guys that I don't care what their status is or what their stats look like. They'll go get you a bucket.
Hold on, Renee. I got to bring in Billy here because he is smiling wildly at something that just happened with Tony. And
Tony thought that he ended the game
did.
with Michael
I did. It's- I don't
Beasley.
know.
I'm telling you, he thought he
you
dropped the
understand.
He dropped the turd
Guys, I
is what
can't
he
explain-
dropped,
Oh
and then he
my
was
God.
so upset when no one went
Billy
in on
doesn't
it.
know anything about basketball.
The mic
That's the
turned
thing.
off. The mic turned off, and he goes, "Real hoopers know."
No, I said it on
To
right.
Renee
Real
Montgomery.
One
hoopers do
hooper
know.
to another, yeah.
Real hoopers do know. Michael Beasley gets buckets, and he's the best bucket
Michael
getter.
Beasley can get a bucket, but if you're going to say the bucket getter of all bucket getters, I don't think
Your
the names
favorite
that I
Hooper's
mentioned
favorite Hooper.
before you would
Tony,
be, is this your
back
king?
off.
Like you said it like, is this your king? Michael Beasley. No, I mean, I listed some real certified bucket getters and you said, no, I got the real one.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I was waiting on something. Like, I thought you was going to go old school, be like, Steve Kerr was really a bucket getter too. If you really looking at it like that, I thought you was going to hit us with something old school or something.
He was more of a shooter, though, Steve Kerr.
Yeah, I know, but I thought you was going to get creative. Like Michael Beasley.
Michael
it's like-
Beasley's excellently creative. What
Look,
are we talking
look,
about here?
Real hoopers
She
know.
wanted Eric Gordon.
You
I mean,
need to
that's a-
stop with
EG?
real Hoopers know when she is a champion at UConn.
And that's why I know she knows.
At WNBA, she is a team owner. You are not to speak to her like you are a peer hooper. You are not.
Like, please with Ron McGill Saturday
We got to
morning,
give you a
yeah.
chance to redeem
A
yourself.
boomer.
Who is your king?
You are a
Who is your king?
My king is Jamal Crawford. I mean, he's the bucket getter of all bucket
Okay,
getters.
okay. You come back over to the good side. Real Hoopers know. I already said
Thank
him.
you.
Let's go. So there we go. That's the real bucket getter of all bucket getters. Go to the big three. Joe Johnson. Ain't he a bucket getter?
ISO Joe.
Oh,
Yeah.
Joe
I could have
Johnson,
even
yes.
given you ISO Joe. Like,
No,
like,
Joe Johnson might be the Hall of Fame first ballot. Joe Johnson might be the Hall of Fame of all Hall of Fame bucket getters.
And also for me,
Thank you.
for me, the ceiling on how good you can be and still be a bucket getter. I think Chris Middleton's a little too good.
Yeah, he's too good
to be a bucket getter.
No, it's got to be
That's
like
my
Eric Gordon.
opinion. Yeah,
Yes.
Eric Gordon.
So
yes.
is Jimmy Butler then too good?
I think so.
Yes.
Are you
No,
telling
I'm not. But Jimmy Butler is not
Jimmy
only
bucket
a
getter.
bucket getter. He's not only like Jimmy Butler can take over the game on the defensive end and just turn it up that way. I was just saying that people that know how to get a bucket, it doesn't matter that Jimmy Buckets was 23% from the 3-point line this season, like the whole season, like a whole season. But now in the playoff money time, he's going to go be money. Like, I'm not surprised about people like that.
Like Lou Williams subsists on buckets.
Yes.
But Jimmy Butler has a lot more there.
Exactly. There's a lot more. That's why I had to go into other just strictly like, this is a bucket getter, Jamal Crawford, you know, those kind of guys.
Real hoopers don't use whatever word Whitty did, by the way. Just letting you guys know.
Yeah, what is
I
he
don't know
doing?
what he
Buckets? We all
used,
just kind of like, yeah.
subsisted or
that's-
I don't
subsisted
know.
on buckets?
I don't know what that
Woody,
means.
I got to see you play because I think I saw a clip floating around of Chris that he was actually doing a couple fadeaways. You know what I'm saying?
It looked
it
like
was-
him. It
there
looked
was-
like him, but it was not him. It was just someone heavy who was a baller. It looked
Oh,
like
it wasn't him. I thought you guys posted it was him.
No, he ain't fading away, I promise.
It's an understandable mistake for you to have made
It
physically
does look startlingly
on,
like
on
him,
his
though.
body.
No, it doesn't.
That was
It
his
does. It really
T-shirt.
does.
I thought he wears that T-shirt.
Hold on.
does. He
Let me-
does.
Juju, come on here, Juju. And Juju is so happy right now at this mistake that has been made by Renee. This Juju lives for this error, for you to believe
my
what you believe.
God.
So Juju, explain to Renee what happened here.
This is the funniest shit in the world. Thank you, sister. I love you. Salute to Dan. Salute to Chris Cody, but he is a joker. He has a lot of lookalikes, and that guy looked so much like him. I said he was Steph Cody. Salute to Chris
Okay.
Cody, but you look like a bunch of big guys. You know what I mean?
Okay, you know what? I was about to say Chris actually had form. I was really about to, if you was talking real hoopers on here, I was going to say the only real hooper I've actually seen live is Chris at this point.
I
The only
wish.
form Chris Cody got is eating hot dogs and
Yeah.
That's harsh.
etc.
Yeah.
What
Round.
up, Jew?
Yes. Thank you, Juju, for your contributions in fat shaming Chris Cody. Thank you, Renee, for your contributions in fat shaming Chris Cody. How much did you enjoy? How much did you enjoy what Kyrie Irving did? The theater of it, going back and forth, but also combined with the lack of professionalism in it. But I loved the theater.
I mean, it's just funny because last night on the NBA on TNT, they showed when Charles Barkley punched Bill Laimbeer in the face and gave him a black eye. And it was like, man, we're over here losing our minds about Kyrie flipping the bird, and they're replaying back in the day when they was knuckling up. So it's like when you see that back to back, it's like, is it that big of a deal? But I know it is because it's like, I don't know. He said he looked in the people's eyes and he wanted to see if they was about that life. And normally they're not. And I was like, what is going on? Like, there's a lot happening here. So I don't know. Like, I don't really know. It's like, I don't care. To me, it's like, did he get if he performed poorly and was playing with the crowd all night, I'd have been like, nah, Kyrie, you got to get out of, like, they in your head. But it was almost like it was turning him up. It's almost like Trae. Certain people get turned up when the fans start hollering at him. And I think that Kyrie is using that as his pack, like his fuel pack.
You got to admire that as an athlete, do you not? Like the not many athletes lean into that way.
Yeah, like not everybody wants to be the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like not everybody can be Stephen A. Smith, like in a sense of going to say the things that everybody crushes them for online. Certain guys, though, it's like it's fueling their tank. You could even see it with Trae. He starts to like shake his shoulders out when people try to like punk him because he's small. And you could just see certain guy, Kyrie, after he made a shot, he was asking, hey, what did you say? You said something? Like he wants you to say something so that he can do it again. You know, honestly think Reggie Miller was one of those guys. So there's certain guys that are like, yeah, like I want to hear what you got to say. They want all the smoke, as you would say.
Renee, we were marveling before at the fact that Ja Morant leads the NBA at points in the paint. He is 6'2". Like, have you seen anything ever in your life like Ja Morant in the NBA?
Yeah, Derrick Rose, but Ja Morant
Right.
is really, really, I mean, it's like that athletic guard that can get past you and then turn you into a poster on the way. it's scary. It's like, it's a scary sight. And especially once they start to realize, like, you could tell the moment that John Morant realized, wait a minute, I'm a little bit more athletic than everybody else. He started blocking shots and just grabbing them off the backboard. Like, he just started doing some really wild stuff. He started shooting these acrobatic layups. He started just dunking on people. And it was like, okay, John Morant has arrived. I remember healthy Derrick Rose gave me them same kind of vibes where it was like, yeah, like, what do you do with him? That's why he was MVP that season. So, and that's why John Morant jumped to the MVP conversation, because it's like, when guys have that type of skill set and they know they got it, that's when it gets crazy.
I'm going to go old school on you here for a bucket getter. Vinnie Johnson, the microwave. How about that?
It's too old.
But,
it's too old.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I have to take your word for it.
Oh, my God. I'm so old.
What is the matter with you?
I mean, real hoopers know. I don't know what to tell you.
Like, I know who you're talking about. Like, it's not that I never heard that name, but
Right.
if I haven't watched people's clips and watched people's game film, I'm not going to really, like, try to break down something. I just know, I know who he is.
How much deliberation?
Look at him. He's all proud of himself. Like,
is.
Stu is all proud of himself.
There was a couple of ballers cutting it up, but I was wrong. I mean,
Can you tell us, Renee, what goes into trading up to get the number 1 overall pick in the draft? Like, how much deliberation, how much risk assessment is there when you're making that kind of move?
None. You know, like, when you're trying to get to the top, and you're a team like ours that we're rebuilding, we're laying a foundation, there's not much debate about, do we want it per se, or, oh, what are we going to give up for it? That's not going to really happen. But it also helps when you have a team that has a number 1 pick that has a lot of weapons already. You know, they already had a lot of weapons. They already had a lot. So they're okay with taking our number 3 because there's still talent at the top. So for us, we wanted to get the best player in the draft, and we got Ryan Howard. And so that's what we needed. We needed pieces that we can, like, build around here in Atlanta, because we basically started over at ground level. Tanisha, our new coach, Tanisha Wright, she gets to pick her team. So I love what's happening, man. Like I said, training camp started on Monday. My poor squad, they doing 2-a-days. I feel for y'all. I don't miss those days. But yeah, man, it's like, it's crazy. Like, I really feel like something's changing here in Atlanta.
What are the parts of ownership that are most overwhelming, positively and negatively? Just where the days you feel overwhelmed and the days that you feel positively overwhelmed.
Let me start with the negatively overwhelmed. It's like, when you want stuff to happen right away, it's like, why can't we do this again? Oh, that's a rule. Like, oh, we're not allowed to do that. So that's why we didn't get that. Like, it's like, once you start to realize, oh my goodness, so we got to do this, to do that, to do this. Like, it's like just the having to go through the steps and the processes when I be thinking things aren't that serious. So, you know, I come from the, like, let's get a solution, let's figure it out, let's get it done. But then when you start to get into organizations and leagues, there's like, oh no, you can't do this. Oh no, you can't do that. So it's like, you got to get real creative on how to be dope.
One last question before we get.
Oh, wait. I forgot. The overwhelmingly positive was whenever, so I was at the gym and the players were working out. There was like a couple players working out before training camp started. And we've been spending months on just trying to get a new facility for the practice for our team so that they felt like they were professionals. Because I felt like when I was a player, we didn't have professional facilities. I felt like it was like, I was playing in a church. Like, that's kind of wild to me that, like, I was training in a church as a professional athlete. So one of the main things was like, we can't be telling people it's dope in the A and then they come train in the church. So we was working a long time on getting a nice training facility. And when the players was working out and they walked in the gym and they was all like, oh, this is lit. They saw their pictures on the wall. I was like, yeah, get into it. Like, I was literally letting them know, like, we spent months on this, boring meetings for months, boring meetings, looking at all these pictures, all these different things. Like, we spent a lot of time making sure that it was dope. So when they actually, like, acknowledged that it was dope, that's the best part.
Oh, but that had to make you feel a bit like a real empowering pioneer, right? Somebody, when you're remembering the practices in the church as a professional, where you're eating shit, where you're a professional, but you're like, come on, I really got to do it this way. For you be able to hand down as part of team ownership the ability for those women to walk into a professional facility that feels professional. Oh my God, the pride.
It was everything. I'm not going to lie, it was everything. That's why I got to shout out to our basketball ops group, everybody involved in that, scouting locations for months. Like, you know, the players, like, as a player, you don't realize how long it takes to just do things, like negotiating the contract for months. And so it's like all the not sexy, boring things that we were doing for months. And then we walk in there and it looks lit. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. Like, that was certain things that I didn't expect to be hype about. It's like, I feel like Stugotz, like, am I getting old? Like, that made me really hype. And like, is that things like that, sentimental, making me hype. Am I getting old? Like, I don't know, but I was really, like, it felt good for real.
All right, Renee, I got more bucket getters here. The crew and I have been discussing.
Y'all was over there plotting.
We were.
I see.
We
Yeah.
were. Ricky Davis, bucket getter.
Again, 40% shooter. You guys are talking about an inefficient shooter. Do you care that
But
a shooter's
could Ricky Davis
inefficient?
get you a bucket today? Could he?
I mean, Ricky Davis could probably get you a bucket.
Manu
today.
Ginobili, bucket getter.
Oh, too good.
Too good.
Way
That's-
too good.
I mean, but he's
Yeah.
too good. I mean, if he's going to be a Hall of Famer, possibly. I mean,
I don't think
know,
Tony
like,
knows how to make lists.
Michael Redd, bucket getter.
He is a bucket getter. That's a good
He's a
bucket,
bucket getter. I would say bucket getter for that.
No
for sure.
Chill Gill, bucket getter.
Yes. Yes.
I didn't hear what he said.
Gilbert Arenas.
Gilbert Arenas, no Chill Gill.
Agent
my-
Zero.
What do they call him? Agent Zero? What is
Yes.
his nickname?
Hibachi, yeah.
Yeah, Agent Zero will come at you and get you a bucket.
Friend of the show, Baron Davis, bucket getter.
Come at you. Wait a minute. Are you talking about pull a gun in the locker room? Come at you? Is that what you're talking
No,
about?
I was talking about he's
Dan.
going to talk noise. Well, he did do that, but I was saying he's going to talk noise the whole time he's doing it. I heard he's like one of the best
Yes.
trash talkers in the history of trash talking. So he's not only going to get a bucket, but he's going to talk to you while he's getting the bucket, and he's going to let you know after he gives you a bucket.
You had him pulling a gun while he's getting a bucket?
Right,
I mean,
Dan!
I mean,
One track mind,
Dan,
man.
come on, Dan.
not while he's getting a bucket.
That was your
but
first thought.
real
Be
hoopers.
an unfair
No.
advantage. I mean, right? I mean,
You stepped on my joke. I had a real hoopers no joke, and you stepped on it.
I heard you. I was laughing at the
I've
real
got a
Hoopers
couple
body.
of questions for you before you get out of here. One of them about Montgomery and company, because
Yeah,
you've got Bomani Jones coming on your next episode. It's family, it's fun, it's meaningful to you. So tell the people why it is they need to find you.
Yeah, man, because it's lit. Like we started having debates about like if you had to do celebrity boxing matches, who would you match up with? You know, and each person gets the bag because that's what the celebrity boxing matches does, right? And so I'm only saying this story because you said family. Well, my snook, which is my mom, she goes on there and we're all talking about who we want to match up with. So we just automatically assume, hey, we're a family. Let's match up with the Kardashians. Let's go 1-to-1. You know, I'll take one sister. Serena will take one sister and all this. And why did Snook try to match us up with people like me and Jamel Hill? I said, does she want me to get whooped out here? Jamel Hill is D-Town Boogie, but Snook's thought process was she wants all the friends to get paid too. So we have a lot of debates. We're going to have a debate about what hill would you die on, in a sense of what's something that you believe that maybe a lot of people don't, that you would die on and you would die for. Like some people think that Kobe's better than MJ. They'll die on that hill. I don't know, but we like to have fun debates that also are current news. And then we just talk about everything going on. We have dope guests. Bomani Jones was really, really dope. I asked him, is this show, and a lot of times when people do TV, the show is a resemblance of the somebody else. Like, Dan, this show is a resemblance of you. So even if there's other hosts, there's going to be Dan Le Batard all over it. So I was asking him, you know, me and him both sit in a lot of seats of shows that were made for somebody else. And I asked him, like, is this show like the most used show you've ever had? And he was like, yeah, man, I feel like this show has my imprints all over. I feel like it's my seat. So I thought that was pretty dope hearing that, because anybody that's ever been in TV and filled in a role of somebody else's seat, you know that ain't really your jam. You can still kill it. You can still do good at it, but it's not really your jam. So I was really happy to see that Bomani has found like something that he feels like is like his lane.
Montgomery and Company, you should check it out. We urge you as part of the Le Batard and Friends Network to support the people who support us. Before we get you out of here, Nate McMillan said he gave the crew before game 2 a do what you got to do day in Miami. That sounded dangerous. I don't know what it means.
do that in Milwaukee.
Yeah, he gave him a 24 hours of free time. I was glad everybody at least made the buzz, showed up for the game. Ain't no telling down there, y'all. I don't even want y'all to know that, because I don't want y'all out there trying to find the guys and show them too good of a time. So yeah, that happened.
I was hunting Bogdanovich all over South Beach, trying to feed,
It didn't work.
trying to feed him drinks. I was. I'm like, I was sidling up next to Herder with an offer of some
man.
weed.
Trying to get
Leave our
Luau
players
Cabarro on a
alone.
boat.
Renee, thank you. Good talking to you.
Later, y'all. Let's go. Let's go, Hawks.
You don't sound convincing at all.
Oh, wow, I left the Zoom with that.
I've been criticized for criticizing other people's lists and not having lists of my own. Dan,
Coward, absolute coward.
I made a list of the top 5 worst lists that we've had on this show lately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to that.
We can get to that later
Let's
if
do it
you'd like.
right now. We'll do it
wow.
right now.
That's not in the spirit of what we're talking. You're
Really?
still all you're doing is just criticizing others.
You guys said let's make a top 5 list. It's
Let's
always where's
do it your
Billy's
way,
list, so I
Billy.
made a list.
I think, Billy, you have found an amazing lane as a career path of just being someone who criticizes other people's lists.
Disagree.
Without-
Hard disagree.
Without-
At best, you could call me an editor.
Okay, very good.
editor.
Yeah.
You hated Billy. You hated his Tony's pizza list, and now you have your own top 5 list.
I just think he can do better. I'm trying to make him better because he
But
just
is
comes out
this-
with these shit lists.
Is this
honestly.
crappiest list that we have
He's
done
pushing him.
in the history of the show? And because
These are the
it's-
top 5 worst lists that I could remember 5 minutes ago.
Okay, number 5.
Tony's list of fries.
How?
Bad list.
You don't even remember them.
It was a bad list.
That's the key to a bad list.
That
Not
it-
remembering.
that it be-
Exactly.
Yes. That'd
That's
be
a big
bad.
problem.
Yeah.
Number 4.
This one's a bit controversial. Tony's list of top skills that he wants.
That was a bad. Admittedly, that was a bad list.
So bad.
I got caught up in the air. It was a Thursday. I was checked out.
You wanted to be good at what, like NFTs?
NFTs, investment banking, and gambling.
No, this is what you drafted. He had the first overall pick, and he picked investing in the stock market, and then he picked gambling, and then his third pick, Dan, for skill that he wanted was chef.
Oh yeah.
And
that
we
was a good
vetoed
one.
that
Yeah.
because chef is a profession, not a skill. And Roy had already drafted cooking, and I had drafted baking. So then he chose dunking. Which makes
Yeah, I
him
wanted that
a
skill.
dunking, investing, gambling douchebag.
Yeah, really superficial, just generally superficial.
Real
Also-
hoopers know.
Also, Mystery Crate is recorded on Fridays, not Thursdays.
That's a fine.
Number 2.
Well, number 3, Witty's top Baseball Tonight analysts.
Also a fine. You said 3, 2, 3.
Number 2 is Christmas.
Number 2 is Christmas. Number 2, Tony's list of bucket getters.
It wasn't even an ordained list. It was just a jotting down of bucket getters that I have.
Michael Beasley in there. And the thing is, Tony, you're not wrong about the fact that he was good offensively. It's just that when you think historically of the word association on Michael Beasley is always going to be wasn't good enough. It's not.
bust.
It's not
Yes.
going to be. It's going to be bust.
He averaged 19 points a game in his 3rd season in the league. It was,
Yeah.
and they were all
Buckets. Thank you.
I feel like we have one more go out of Beasley. You don't think?
He's probably only 34, 33. How old is he? He's certainly old enough to still be playing in the league. He hasn't been.
I mean, Lance Stevenson came back.
his basketball reference, the last line on his per game page, 2019-20, did not play, parenthetically, COVID-19, contract voided due to positive test.
Wow.
Lance Stevenson, not a bucket getter.
No.
Not a bucket
He's
getter.
a pest. Top 5 pests?
Yes.
Can you void someone's contract for getting sick?
Yeah, that's
like that
illegal.
sounds like a lawsuit.
Yeah.
You're only allowed to do it to Michael Beasley. Nobody will care. Because that's how we treat busts. Number 1.
Tony's list of pizzas.
It's a good list.
Tony is a bad list maker. Billy is a good list maker. Billy's critical list of all of Tony's lists was exceptional.
And it really turned when the number 10 or number 9 was good pizza.
Well, number 6 was
Just
great
good,
pizza.
Good pizza
I
from
have
an
the list. Hold
Italian
on a second.
restaurant. No, I don't want to do this again.
Number
It
10
wasn't
was
that bad.
There's too
What
many.
was 10?
There's
What was
too
10?
many.
Number 10 was good Italian spot.
That's horrible.
That is
That's
not a
right,
good.
yeah.
That is just.
just pizza.
It's just pizza.
It's a good Italian spot pizza.
Your
Look-
list of good pizza.
I agree with you at the time. It's an
You
Italian
don't-
spot known
no,
for its dishes,
you-
not
no,
its pizza.
no.
And
No,
occasionally,
number
right.
7 was like yummy pizza
No.
or something.
The reason that it's not allowed to be a good list is because his top 25 list of best pizzas in order was number 10, just good pizza. Just good pizza you get from an Italian place that makes good pizza.
Good Italian spots.
I love. Tony has a leg to stand on here, but it's so much funnier to just reduce it to good pizza.
I'm trying, Tony.
You can't have a list of degrees of good pizza and then just say that one of the degrees is good pizza.
Was it number 1? Didn't it end with Google it also?
Well, no. Number
it did.
9
It
was
did.
cold pizza.
Which is
If that
disgusting.
makes-
What your list went to
Objectively
your
disgusting.
Jay
list,
Crawford.
your list went to shit after number 10 or after number 11. You were doing fine. You were sailing across the sky. I was rooting for you. And then it all came tumbling down. Jessica, I interrupted you while we were talking about Brian Kelly because I wasn't. We got detoured on a Brian Kelly exit ramp, but I also wanted to talk about Dabo Swinney and the interim coach of the Clemson Tigers, who turned himself into a champion as the interim coach, the guy who happened to be there when things changed and gets credit for everything changing.
Right place, right time, Dano.
And has since gotten very powerful and powerful voice as well. Says things, does things, has very strong beliefs, gives off a whole lot of coach from another time.
Well, okay, so I went to Clemson my freshman year. I should state that. I liked the Clemson Tigers. I really liked Dabo when I was a student there. So this doesn't come from a place of like anti-Dabo Swinney bias, which is what Clemson fans will accuse any media member of starting with whenever they talk about Dabo, because Dabo has this incredible rags to riches story, right, that everyone wants to believe in. And he started off as a walk-on wide receiver at Alabama. He lived in a dorm with his mom when he was in college. They really had no money. And then he worked his way up and became an assistant coach at Clemson. And then he got the shot at being the Clemson head coach, which a lot of people were very skeptical of the time because he was unproven. And now he's won 2 national championships at Clemson, and he's one of the highest paid college coaches. And so Dabo's perspective is a lot different than I think a lot of people who are trying to like get with the times in college football, because college football has changed so much just in the last year, but especially the last 5 or 6 years. And so every time Dabo talks about player payment, he can tend to put his foot in his mouth a little bit. Like he said that he, basically said at one point, like if players get paid, he'll quit. And so people will bring that up anytime you talk about Dabo and be like, look at this idiot.
He
Like,
didn't basically say it. He said
Yes.
he was
this is before NIL. Like if players make a salary, and then he clarified, like if players make a salary, I'm going to quit. I don't wanna
Dabo
be a part of it
Swinney
anymore.
is the face as the sport and the way it monetizes changes, and as more and more people see the injustice. Dabo Swinney is one of the faces of pay me a lot, don't pay them at all.
Right. And so Dabo had this interview with ESPN, I think last week or maybe the week before while I was on vacation or out or whatever. And he got a lot of flack again for kind of like reiterating that point. But in it, he also said some things that I think were fair and true in his perspective that got overlooked because of the main criticism he had, which I'm going to read to you because it is one of the craziest quotes I've ever read that it makes no sense to me. And I feel like we should unpack it. So the question was from the reporter, this is on ESPN, do you understand when people say, well, coaches like Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban are making in the $10 million range. Why shouldn't the athletes be able to profit even before they get on campus? And Dabo said, well, Nick Saban is 70 years old. I'm 52 years old. None of us set markets on what we do. We live in a capitalist society. The head of Delta probably makes a lot more than the people who are checking your baggage in, but those people are all as vital as anybody. None of us set markets on what we do. It's a free market we live in anything. It's just that our jobs are so visible and so public. I can tell you this, none of us got into coaching to make money, but I don't apologize for being successful. The players aren't able to participate in that market. So, first of all, I don't know why he's making a comparison with Delta baggage people being underpaid, which they probably are.
No, but he found he realized once he compared his players to baggage handlers, and he said, and they're very important too. He went in there and shuffled right behind it with explaining
He's right,
how
they are
important
very
the baggage handlers are to the airlines as well. Yes, but they're more interchangeable and more disposable, just like his players.
But then he's saying that his job is so visible in public. Well, I would argue that people watch the games to see the action on the field more than the guy wearing the crew neck sweater and khakis on the sideline. I understand that guy has a lot of input in who ends up on the field and what plays are called, but the players are more vital than the coaches in the actual sport of college football.
You say that, but it's not the way it's covered. It's not the way it's paid. It's not the way it's valued in any way except the way that you're talking about it. It doesn't have any, what you're saying doesn't have any real value. No, the ones that run college football are the ones who are paid. The ones who are valued are the ones who are paid. That's how that works. That's the centerpiece of the injustice.
It would make sense for him to think like that, though.
But if there, to Jess's point,
to justify his salary, yeah.
If there were a free market, though, we'd very quickly come to realize how much value those players would have. And those players would very quickly become the centerpiece of the attention, right? They're only now, like, the whole construct of college football is, what can the coach do to create success? Whereas if players got paid on like, we would know, all right, this player is clearly the one. Like, that's part of what salaries in the NBA do, is they identify the players who are the most valuable and therefore garner the most attention.
I think it's wonderful that all of you can now see out in the open why Dabo doesn't want that free market. Because then it's shared. Mm-hmm. And then these guys get exposed by the way the machine works, that these control freaks don't have that much control unless you make it so the rules are that the same 15 control freaks can have all the success because there are 15 great programs with 15 CEOs who have multi-million-dollar deals, and now with the portals, they got less and less control. Their guys can just leave. And of course, these people will fight to the death to protect the money, to protect the power, to protect the voice, to protect the imbalance that provides them with the money, the power, and the voice.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because Dabo and a lot of college coaches, in theory, support the NIL rules now, which, like, they're very broad rules, which is a point that he brings up, which is true. Like, there isn't a lot of regulation about what counts as NIL and what might be crossing the line into, more of an exploitative model, which is kind of a main criticism of the NIL thing now. But Dabo, what all these coaches fail to realize is when they say, like, yeah, we support NIL, we think players should get paid for their name, image, and likeness, but we don't think they should be making salaries. You're essentially saying, like, yeah, they should get paid if someone else pays them, but it can't come out of our pot. Like, we're keeping all of that. It's going to be paid to our athletic director, to us, the coaching staff, but we don't want to split any of that with the players. So if whatever local company or national company, if Nike wants to come in and sponsor someone, we're cool with that because it doesn't affect our bottom line at all.
But
we don't want to be the ones to pay them.
But it's just such bare naked greed, the idea that they're still trying to outsource the cost of this while keeping the system and the rules the same and having Nike and boosters and fans and other people. To me, the construct of it is so laughable, consistently unjust and laughable, that I'm wondering when everyone is, because the most recent polling I've seen says keep the kids broke. We prefer the college system of amateurism, even if all it is the actual professional league that America pays attention to. That's the minor league, the only professional league that is the American paid attention to minor league. And the power will protect that structure, and the walls are caving in on that structure. There will never be another Nick Saban. Stugotz, he sees it. He's howling right now saying, did you see the NFL paid my players $1.7 billion? Did you see that my quarterback got $1 million before he signed at the school? Nick Saban just realized that he's in a money fight now. That's different than the fight he thought he was fighting.
He's doing just fine, though, Nick Saban.
I know, but there's never going to be another one. There's not going to be anybody who's going to be able. Everything, the governance of this is such that the walls are going to cave in on all of this because those people don't have the power you think they have. The players are the ones with the value, the quarterbacks. I mean, you've got at Liberty, Stugotz. Nobody cares that it's Hugh Freeze and the former Baylor AD. They just produced a first-round quarterback. Liberty wants to get into the football game. Liberty!
And they might have a first-round draft pick in Malik Willis next week in the NFL draft.
Steve Martin was a prop comment.
Mm-hmm.
He was. But I didn't
want to say it.
I think your point, Dan, your point is that, the structure is now, there was never really a great structure to begin with, because this has been an issue in college football for over 100 years.
There was no structure.
There has never been a structure. There is no
it's a structure
college football
that
commissioner. Like there's no central leadership person. And you're right. And now the structure, the very feeble structure that existed in college football is the cracks are more than exposed. It is crumbling beneath these coaches who got used to a modicum of power and control over the last few years with, no transfer portal, with no NIL, with everything being done. Players were getting paid, but it was under the table and coaches could control it and influence it potentially. And now there really are no rules. Like the NCAA completely the NCAA was probably the only organization that had a chance in controlling how NIL was rolled out, and they punted on it until it became a legal case. And now there are no rules and regulations to it. And I honestly don't know what rules and regulations you could even create in NIL or in the transfer portal. Like I've heard some people suggest like a transfer portal window, so a player could transfer. Like there would be like it'd be like in the NFL with like your free agency period or something like that. But I don't understand, like, to begin with, putting all of these rules and regulations now on players that finally have a little bit of freedom and more of a free agency when none of it is collectively bargained because players aren't employees. And so now you're going to be, you're finally giving them some rights and deciding, I can transfer now. Maybe I can make more money if I do this, this, and this for the right reasons or whatever wrong reasons that Dabo is implying here. But you're going to now take some of that back because it's too much, because now all the coaches are whining about it. And the players still don't have any influence or voice in any of it. And I find it, frankly, amazing that we're still here. And there is still no, whether it's a union or a players association or a collective of players.
But they've tried. Northwestern tried as a football team.
Many years ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
Stop that shit down.
The Pac-12 during the pandemic, or the Pac-10 during the pandemic, found itself in a spot where it was talking most vigilantly about we need to get paid, and they were the last ones to get back. I don't think any of this is coincidental. I believe that the flimsy remains of the system are going to be protected and governed by the people who profit off it most. And Dabo will continue to give you his perspective on it because he can think that he won 2 championships because his perspective dragged him up from nothing into being somebody who's a champion at Clemson.
The most recent polling done on this issue was done by Ohio State in November of 2020, and it found that 51% of adults agree that college athletes should have the ability to be paid above school costs, compared to 41 disagreeing. However, this poll basically did say that it broke down almost entirely along racial lines, with results showing that the odds for white adults to strongly agree that college athletes should receive compensation beyond their scholarships were 36% lower than the odds for non-white adults.
And most of the voices and faces getting this money, putting their name on it, tend to look like Dabo Swinney. And there is, you've heard me say before, when people talk about free scholarships, they don't pay the coaches in books. Dabo Swinney wouldn't accept as a bonus library access.
The scholarship thing, like, that feels like so like 2005 to me. Like, you can't possibly make that argument with a straight face anymore. Like, oh, they get a free education. Okay.
But at least the numbers have now changed on some of the polling for the first time. It's still laced with the same crud in it, but at least some of that is changing. And I do think that people are seeing more for themselves the silliness in that. I do think the tide has shifted, that when down, at the very least, while there might not be actual change, empirical change, the real change is only as abstract as when Dabo says that, most people tend to clown him with the hypocrisy of, you can't keep them broke while being the highest paid state employee, Dabo. That's not fair.
The one thing I'll add about NIL that I think gets missed a lot when we talk about it is, and I've heard other college football reporters make the same argument, which is that, like, the players aren't getting paid for playing in most of these NIL cases. And this goes for like all sports, not just college football. This goes for like if you're a gymnast or a baseball player or whatever, you're getting paid to have another job. Like, you're getting paid to do like an influencer deal, which you might be someone who looks at that and says like, okay, you get paid to like tweet, like big whoop. But it's not coming to you for free. Like, there's still some sort of labor output being done with that. So it's not just paying them to play. the NIL deals in a lot of parts are going into paying a player to like care about their image, create a brand, maybe like make merch, maybe post something here for a company or post something there. Like that's not nothing.
Is this in the smaller sports, like in college football? Do they have to do that?
Any sport, yeah. There are certain college football deals where they'll have to like do a certain amount of posts for a company or something like that. Like the people in media do these too. They're called influencer deals. You can do them, on TikTok or whatever. A brand pays you. And you
now you've got Stugotz's attention.
Well, I was aware. Just
they're very Well, Stugotz has probably done
Elijah
some
Craig.
of right. Stugotz has probably done some of these. We've all probably done some of these.
Official bourbon of Max Homa.
Exactly, but it's Stugotz. Like whether or not it's easy or hard to do whatever your obligations are to Elijah Craig, it's still extra work. You're not just being paid to do the show.
Correct.
So it's kind of like that point gets missed a lot when it's like, oh, they're finally getting paid. It's like, no. This is all extra. These are the extra endorsements that professional athletes do. This isn't LeBron James's salary for being on the Lakers.
I just love that any time a freedom arrives, a spark of freedom arrives, there's Dabo Swinney to stomp it out with a Nike that somebody paid for it.
I thought you were going to say there's Stugotz to take advantage of a money-making opportunity.
That as well. Both of those things. I don't know which happens more quickly. Power goes to the player and Dabo steps in front over my dead body, or scam goes uncovered by Stugotz until Stugotz arrives there and uncovers it.
Well, thank you, Dan.
Wasn't a compliment.
Well, felt like one.
Saban looked good for 70.
He looks great.
Yes.
I didn't know he was 70.
It's the hair dye.
I thought he was like an unhealthy 56.
It's the hair dye.
But to get to 70 with all the temper tantrums he has on the sideline is pretty remarkable, right? Like he seems to be in good health despite all of his public behavior that would lead to things that you would think would not get him to 70.
Wait, so you thought he was an unhealthy 56, and now that you know he's 70, you think...
I'm like, wow, not terrible. 70, yeah. I mean, because you see, he has these fits of rage on the sideline, and it's like, wow, like, if my grandfather or someone was screaming like that late in the 60s, I'd be like, calm down, Pop. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna croak.
Maybe you should blow a gasket at us every day. You just come in here, do like a 10-minute rant, just berate Tony. And then,
does that in the parking lot before I get here.
I think Billy does do that to Tony. I think Billy makes a good point, though. There does come a certain age, does there not, where an old person seems too old to be screaming and yelling in a tantrum. I don't know what that age.
Well, just maturity and also like for health benefits, I would think let's just calm down a little bit.
But
you know
just
what I mean?
the look of it. How often are you in a grocery store and you see a 78-year-old woman just lighting up the cashier? Like, it's not going to be rage that looks like savings.
Grocery stores are different. That's a whole different animal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
A coupon doesn't work. Who knows? Yeah. All
There's
bets
some
are
people
off.
that become different people in the grocery store.
Yeah,
That's light some people up.
That's true. Yeah, and airports.
Oh, airports.
Yeah, airports.
Bring out the
People
worst
become
in
evil at
people.
airports. For
Yeah.
some reason.
No, they become themselves. You see the real them. That's the thing.
That's a great shout.
Mhm.
Put it on the poll. Do people reveal the real them at airports?
I would say the most real anybody is behind the wheel of a car. Really? Like, that's when you really
Alone,
discover yourself.
Alone,
right,
right.
exactly.
Have to
Right,
be
not
alone.
around people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is when you are shouting "fuck you" at someone.
Right.
When you would never actually ever do that.
I imagine
to their
you
face.
doing that.
Yeah,
I do.
I do.
That is true because Whitty
My
revealed
favorite is
this
my,
to us.
My under out of view middle finger.
It's
Out
so
of
Whittingham.
view middle finger.
It's the best.
Oh, by the way, have you ever had this happen to you before, where you get middle finger from someone and you don't realize why? I was driving home the other
you're
day.
like, what did I do?
No, and this dude was like aggressive, like pulled out. I was scared shitless from multiple lanes of traffic and was aggressively middle fingering me. And it's like, what happened? What did I do?
Right.
I was on the phone. I'm like, is this guy next to me just giving me the middle finger aggressively?
And it will sit with you all day.
Did you cut
Right.
somebody off?
Maybe. I don't
doesn't
remember.
know.
I don't feel like
He
I
was just
changed
being
lanes.
himself.
Now, I hate when you catch a stray that's not meant for you. Like the person's mad at you, but it's not something that you did, but they're unaware of the fact that it wasn't your fault. Yeah, like the rogue honk or something. And it's like, it's not me. It's the car in front of me. The car's smaller. You can't see around my car. There's a smaller car
You're
than me.
explaining
like,
yourself
relax,
in the car. You're doing this whole explanation when they
Yeah.
can't hear you, and you're just with.
Or when someone's not moving at the front, but there are 5 cars in front, so you honk in the hopes that there's like a chain honk that finds its way to the person in the
chain
front.
honk.
I love the chain honk. No,
Of
it's the
course
best.
you do. I knew you would.
I love starting them.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Stugotz loves to be in the middle of a chain hong.
I started
I'll fall asleep on my horn. I mean,
I started reacting to honks in a way that I thought was better. With like, if I'm angry, like I don't want to give a middle finger to someone and get shot or something, right? So I started reacting a different way, but I don't necessarily think that it's any better when dealing with an angry person. So now, like if I'm getting a honk or someone's like because the like light just changes and they need me to go, I'll just give them one of these. Give him a thumbs up right back. Right back to that. I'll give him a thumbs up.
Got
it. With positivity.
Got it.
I like
thumbs
that.
up. But I feel like that could still lead to me getting shot. Yeah.
Get your thumb shut off.
I think it would lead to confusion.
cautious
first.
man.
I love it.
You got it.
That's the
Thanks for the heads up,
the
buddy.
Poster for the movie poster for the superhero Cautious Man is you with your sarcastic thumb blown off by a Miami shooter.
There's smoke coming off of where the thumb once was.